Hey, ladies, we're still in hump day, still going. I know it's been a full day, but I am so happy to end this day to round everything out with this discussion as a fireside chat with Flo, Nicolas, and I. Okay. We're going to be talking about knowing what to quit, which is a very, very, very important topic for business owners because it's not about waiting until it's time to shut all the way down, right? Or celebrating the wins. Like along the way, we have to know what to trim, what to drop, what to remove, what to reduce, okay? So this will be a very intimate, honest discussion. We're going to take our time with this one because we know it's not easy, okay? But before we dive in, Flo, I would love if you could take your time and tell people about, your company today, what you do, all the things that you yourself are juggling as an entrepreneur, and anything else you'd like to share.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me, for this very, very critical and important conversation. So I am Flo Nicolas, and I am the co-founder and chief operating officer of DI Directive. We are a technology company. I know that's hard for some people to kind of comprehend, but we are a tech company that's doing diversity, equity, and inclusion. We actually have a software which provides data analytics to organizations where they can be able to capture their employee demographics besides just, showcasing race and gender. I mean, you can get down to the nitty gritty, like, the educational level of your employees, all the way down to more detailed demographics. And why is this crucial? Data analytics is huge right now. It's like $1 billion industry. And one of the things that we're just seeing is organizations are really falling behind when it comes to implementing successful DEI strategic plans. And one of the things that we're seeing is a lack of capturing data. And essentially what I mean by that is you don't know your areas of improvement if you're not tracking them. You don't know where you are successful if you are not tracking that. And we offer an end-to-end comprehensive DI data analytics platform, which also includes the capability for benchmarking, tracking your hiring goals, tracking who's leaving the organization. Is it mostly women? Is it mostly women of color? As well as being able to send surveys to employees. Because remember, implementing DEI is not just a thing of, hey, here's our strategic plan, see you later. You actually have to talk to your employees. You've got to survey your employees to get an understanding if what you have implemented is actually working, if it's actually beneficial to your employees. So we're really happy at DI Directive to offer this solution to organizations because we truly believe in kind of getting away from just checking off the box, right? That's not good enough anymore. We want transparency. We want you to measure those metrics, and we want you to do it right because part of this is really critical for the well-being of your employees because there is a correlation between mental health and people showing up to work and feeling like they belong. They can be authentic. They are free to be who they want to be. So that's what I'm currently working on and just trying to push out there to get our name out there. We're a women-owned business. We are 2 attorneys with a technology background, and we are women of color, just really trying to, just be rebels, where DEI right now seems to be a hot topic. We're really trying our best to get organizations to be a little bit more serious about implementing DEI.
That's so good, Flo, especially around this conversation on knowing what to quit, right? Because if you're not measuring it, you don't believe it matters, obviously, right? And so in DEI, right, like it is, I love that. Like it is important that we don't just do the status quo and it doesn't work. We have to quit doing the shit, excuse my French, that does not edify the people that we say we're trying to help and double down on the things that are good, right? That really do move the needle. And so I love that you are bringing data transparency and accountability, right, to these business initiatives that are supposed to be Yeah, moving the needle for us. And so to double down on kind of this idea around knowing what's working, knowing what's not working, right? Um, as we bring into the vein of Black women, right? And us trying to give ourselves that same level of grace, right? We've talked about this before, Flo. Black women have so much pressure. We have so much pressure from so many different angles, from our jobs, from our families, from our partners, from our children. I could go on, right? And it's not easy for us to even know what to quit, right? Especially when we're
Right.
thinking that we are like doing someone harm when we decide to quit things. So what would you say to women who find it hard to like siphon through the noise, right? Like how do they even
Yeah.
see for themselves what they want and don't want?
Yeah, that's a great question. And as you're talking, it reminded me, it was one time I was sick. I had pneumonia and I could barely walk, but, I had to, my husband wasn't, going to school full time. He had already left the house. I had to literally drive on my daughter to daycare. Like I was practically like crawling, and I remember my mom saying, you've got to get better. Your children need you. And I'm like, I need me. I'm like near death. And so it's sometimes you say you have those pressures where you've got to perform, but it's not just perform at 40% or perform at 50% or even perform at 100%. Sometimes we're being tasked with having to perform at 200, 300, 400%. And speaking about data, as I did when I opened up, what I do is the data shows that, Black women of color are having to work more than double our counterparts, right? So you already have that pressure and knowing what to quit, when to quit. And I don't even know if we should use the word quit because sometimes we correlate quitting with like, oh, you're just giving up, oh, you're not doing enough to work hard. But, knowing just how to prioritize, right? As a business owner, one of the biggest things, that I always say is that when you're starting your business, in order for people to know who you are, you've really got to hustle, right? Whether it's like you're leveraging social media, whether it's like you're doing like in-person meetings with prospective customers, whether you're doing Zoom calls, right? When I look at my schedule sometimes, right, I'm like, what in the world am I doing? Right? Why is my schedule like this where I don't even have like it back to back? I'm not even giving myself a bathroom break, right? Do I really have to schedule these calls, like 15 calls back to back? How can I prioritize and manage? And one of the things that I just noticed the past 2 weeks was, again, this pressure to really scale the business, right? Because, you're as an entrepreneur, you already know if you don't get customers, if you don't have people purchasing your products, hiring you for your services, you don't make money, right? So we have that added pressure off. I've got to do this because I've got to pay bills. I've got to feed my kids. I've got to take care of this person. And it's also statistics show half the time the pressure is also because we tend to be the breadwinner, right? And not only are we supporting ourselves, sometimes we're also supporting other people, and some of them might be outside of our household, elderly parents, for example. And I'm just scheduling all these meetings. I'm like driving up, talking to prospective, somebody's like, hey, let's have a meeting. And I'm like, oh, sure. Now I'm like, okay, do I have to drive half an hour to go talk to this person in person? Or can this be a Zoom call, right? Is this really a prospective client? Or is this someone who just wants to kind of chit chat and just get to know me better versus really, require my services, right? So starting to prioritize on the need to have in-person meetings versus I can schedule this on Zoom and not waste, my gas, not waste, about travel time. That's one of the things I'm starting to learn. And that's one of the things I'm starting to cut back on is not every meeting is required, right? Not every meeting is really going to propel or push you to where you need to be in terms of your business. Not every networking event, you don't have to attend them all, right? I have to assess who are the people who are going to be this event. And are there people who are likely to be customers? Are they people who I would, talk to about my platform, who would use the platform, who would even understand, or are they not, right? So it's stuff like that you kind of have to start asking those questions in terms of, especially if you're focusing on your business of, well, where do I go to get customers, right? And being strategic about it and not stressing yourself out where you've got like 15, 20 events scheduled and only one of those events really aligns you with your prospective clients, right?
That's
It's
so
a
good.
strategy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. It should be results over activity, right? Like white supremacy culture has us so bound to activity and associating our self-worth with it. And if we are relaxing for 3 days straight, we literally feel like we are lazy and worthless, et cetera, right? And we have to get a lot of these things out of our heads. As you were talking, and I'm so happy that we can have an intimate, slow discussion on this, because there are literally adjectives that we're nervous about using as Black women, right? Like, we already have so many assumptions about us that we don't even give ourselves the same grace as our counterparts, right? Even this, like you already mentioned it, like being nervous about using this word quit as we decide to eliminate in our lives. But we know that Bill Gates dropped out of college. We know that Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of college. We know that, like, we literally know that the greats that we esteem, right, made decisions in their lives to go against social grains and literally quit things, right? And so I want to double click on this a little bit too, to like kind of delve into, right, like these high inhuman bars, right, that we set for ourselves because we're so nervous, right, about we're afraid to be simple, right? When I think about McDonald's and how they've driven the Big Mac, they don't care that they could do 50 things or 100 things. Like, they drove the big, like, simple is good enough. Johnson & Johnson baby products, they can make vaccines, but this, like, we are very nervous about trimming the fat on things and being very niche. Where do you think that piece is it that we've never seen it before? Do we feel like inadequate if the resume isn't like 3 times longer than our counterparts? Like, why are we afraid to use adjectives or to do things that we see our counterparts do like every day?
Right. I think you mentioned earlier, we're kind of held to a different standard, right? And the standard that we're held to is a high standard, right? And one of the things the data shows is, and I remember mentioning this to somebody the other day, that in 2022 there were about 1,821 businesses that were created a day, and 64% of those businesses, according to JP Morgan, were created by women of color. And then the question became, why are we seeing this high amount of businesses being created by women of color? And part of it is because of lack of opportunities, right? Where there are opportunities in the corporate world. So women of color end up creating these businesses to survive, right? Because you have the resume. Even statistics came out recently that, Black women are, we are some of the most educated people.
The most educated demographic in the country, the most degrees, the most like post undergrad degrees in the whole country.
And I attest to that. I hold that Juris Doctorate, so I get it. But yet, even with that, we are still underpaid, right? We struggle to get senior level positions. When we do get a position in an organization, we struggle to get promoted. So it's like, when you see not just the glass ceiling as a barrier, but you got mountains, you got oceans. I mean, there is like brick foundations. I mean, there is just so many barriers. You get nervous. You start questioning your capabilities. And not to mention the fact that when you look at the statistics, yes, it's great that we've seen a lot of women of color who've opened up businesses, but then there's the other statistics to that is the success rate of those businesses. And although we had high amount of women of color creating businesses, we also have a high amount of businesses that fail that are created by women of color. So how do you, with all that kind of negative narrative, how do you feel like you can be a Oprah? How do you feel like you mentioned you can be a Johnson and Johnson and Amazon and Microsoft and Google? I mean, Amazon was built in a garage, right? And we have many people who are building their businesses in their kitchens, in their basements, in their bedrooms, in that little corner of their house that they can have a space to do it. But what we sometimes lack is the support, right? Investors willing to invest and take a risk, right? Because investors know that investing in a company, it's also about taking that risk, right? There's a risk that my business might not become a Google and Amazon, but the willingness to invest and believe and have the trust and the faith that, hey, Flo is, oh my gosh, look at Flo. She's got the Juris Doctorate. She's done very well. And, when she was in her corporate, she has these accolades and she has boom, 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 resume, just boom, 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 with positive things that I have accomplished. But even that is still not enough, right? So how do you get that confidence? How do you not only get that confidence, but how do you retain that confidence as you are building your business? And it is hard. I can tell you, and most people who are listening, being a woman-owned business by itself is very challenging. It's very difficult, right? And being a woman-owned business in terms of being a woman of color, now you got double the challenges and double the barriers. It's hard to convince yourself at times that you are worthy, you can do it, when you have others saying, no, you're not worthy. Oh, absolutely not. This business is not going anywhere. Well, okay, you know what? There are other businesses like that. What makes you so special? Well, I mean, there's McDonald's, there's Wendy's, there's Arby's, there's Burger King, there's all these fast food places, but they're still doing it. They're still creating billion dollar businesses, right? So I can do it as well. And the other thing about knowing when to quit and using those words is it's a struggle for us to use those words, because we've almost kind of been taught that we're lazy, right? We're this and we're that, based on what some people might see in social media, right? Or on the news. Oh, they're criminals. Most of them, a good percentage spend time in prison, right? It's very rare to see the positive, where we're seeing positive role models like, Angela Bassett and Oprah and Viola Davis and other really women who have just Viola Davis' story is one great example, her upbringing and how she was poor. I mean, she wet her bed till she was like a teenager. And she was living in like rat infested apartment in New York when she's doing like Broadway. But she didn't give up. Even when she wanted to give up, even when she was told you're ugly, you're too dark, you're not light skinned, even when she got, her show, How to Get Away with Murder, she was still being told like, oh, why did she get that role? She's not like Halle Berry. There is so much stacked up against us that, yes, those words, when you hear quit, when you hear failure, there's something extra that just hurts when you hear those words, especially when, like you mentioned, we have all these accolades. We are highly intelligent, highly educated, but then still, with all that, there are all these barriers that are always stacked against us. So how do you take those words in, quitting and failing? It's a lot.
Yep. I agree. And all of that you describe is real. I think all of us experience these at different extremes, even, right? In different chapters and seasons of our lives. And I think it's all the proof, because Black women are the most educated, the most educated demographic in the entire country, yet we still are underfunded, we are underpaid. We literally start 42% of all women-owned businesses every single day. Not women of color, Black women. Black women start 42% of all net new businesses created by women every single day, yet we're underserved, right? Like, I think that is telling of the fact that the goalposts have to change. If Black women have paid $200,000 for the price of admission, gotten an Ivy League education, and still can't get in the room, right? You still not special in their eyes, then dang, you should have done like Mark Zuckerberg and use that $200K for your own business. Right? Like, maybe we need to start using Issa Rae, because Issa Rae literally said out of her mouth, I didn't try to get Oprah and Tyler Perry to care about me. I literally reached horizontally to my homeboy and horizontally to my homegirl, and we pulled together, you know? Like, I believe, and I have this conversation a lot in Africa too, because like this white supremacy has impacted us all, right? Like, instead of giving our entire lives to change somebody's mind about letting us in, let us in the Oscars, let us in the Grammy, put us on the Forbes list, stop being biased. Like, why do we care so much that they accept us? Like, why do we care? Like, why can't we create our own list? Why can't we band together? Because the culture is dope. Like, the culture is literally the bar. Like, now that social media is popping and companies are trying to be hip, they always speak like a Black woman. We know that. Like, TikTok being sensationalized, like they stole dances from Black women, literally. And white influencers became really, really famous by learning what they do because it's more palatable, right? Like, I love that we're taking our time with this, because it is, yes, it is scary. It is not any less scary to do it on your own than it is to go into their white spaces and try to make them like you. Like, it's just scary regardless. But I think this conversation is all the proof, and why, like, we literally, and I do give homage to everybody who is working to change folks' minds. I get it, like, really trying to, reform things. Right. I definitely get it, right? But alongside that has to be a building where we literally do not care from the ground up around what their systems look like. And to that point, I have another question, Flo. I read a quote recently in a book I was reading that said, perfection is not when there is nothing left to add. Perfection is when there's nothing left to take away, when there's nothing more to take away. And the writer was expressing that it is simplicity. It is removing the things that bring you angst, and removing the things that are not additive to your life, and removing the things that take away from your peace, that brings this harmonious sense of perfection in life, right? And so what are the real examples of things that you've put down in your business flow, that you've, like, as you've gone along, you notice that, like, no, this doesn't serve me, or this doesn't serve my people? I know for me, at the top of the year, folks remember this that are listening. I sent an email to the entire 7,000 folk in the membership and said, hey, look, Casey will not be doing the work from anywhere immersion week program in South Africa and Bali, and where else are we going? We were going to Barcelona. I said, Casey will not be doing the US tour that she was going to do, right? Like, I looked at my business, which is really a tech company, right? A tech powered company, and look at the margins of those particular things where I'm putting out so much money up front, and it's hard to scale it, right? You can scale tech, you can't scale in-person things, right? And I put it down, right? And it was so hard for me. My dad and my fiance, they were literally just like, Casey, what, like you already know, but it was so hard for me, but I still did. And it was the best decision I could have made. What were those examples for you in not just knowing what to quit in your business, but actually quitting them?
Right. You bring up a good point. So last year when I first started, I was not a DI directive. So I joined DI directive this year in February of 2023. So last year I had it in my mind, I was going to create an app, right? I was like, I'm a very frugal person. I love finding good deals. I'm going to create an app that helps other people find good deals. And it was going to be almost like community, like social media type of app, where as people are going to stores and they find good deals, they'll notify each other. I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to build this. Found somebody to build the app. Wasted money because it wasn't working. It was absolute garbage. Had other people do Q&A on it, and they were like, this app is garbage. So I'm sitting there like, okay, what do I do? I'm struggling to get funding. I'm struggling to get people to, I'm going to investors, and they're just like, well, there's Groupon, and there's all these other apps on the market. And I'm like, no, but I'm not Groupon. I'm not trying to give people cash back. I'm not a cashback app, right? I would actually work side to side with cashback apps, right? But I'm trying to explain and trying to get people to believe in the business. I was struggling. But around the same time that I created the app, I also created my own TV show called Get Tech Smart, which is going successfully. And I focus on inviting technology guests from my state. And we talk all things technology. And I put a spotlight on the emerging tech scene in my state. So around that time, I'm noticing that most people are interested in what I'm doing with Get Tech Smart versus the app that I'm creating. So mid-year of 2022, I was like, I really have to think about what path I want to take here. Because when I'm talking about the app, people are just like, oh, okay. And then when I talk about the show, people are like, oh, wow. Oh, my God. You know what? I know someone who'll be great. People are excited about the show and the app. They're just like, okay. So that for me was you know what? I have to adapt. I have to figure out what's working and what's not working, where to put my resources, which includes money, which includes my time. And I said, I'm going to give myself until December. Because sometimes you don't have to just drop while it's hot, you don't just drop it right away. Sometimes you got to say, you know what? Let me see if I do ABC. Is that going to yield different results for me, right? So you got to be strategic about it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to give myself time. I'm going to do everything that I can. And at the end of it, what made sense was just really focusing on my technology education, because from there, it landed me on the LinkedIn Accelerator program, where I was one out of 120 people across the United States that was selected, the only person in my state. And I was creating technology and innovation content for LinkedIn for 6 weeks. And that got me a $12,000 grant. Then from there, I started getting contracts by, a local college. Hey, can you create a AI and cybersecurity class for us? So people were more paying attention to the stuff I was doing with the tech education and my technology content versus my app. So I made the decision to put that idea on the shelf. I call it, again, put it on the shelf. Again, I'm still struggling, right? Because that's the painful part of me using the word quit, right? I'm still struggling with that word, but I put it on the shelf because I said, this idea might not be for right now, but I can adapt to the business model that is working, right? And that is bringing in the contracts. And for me, that's the advice that I give, is that you've got to listen to the feedback you're getting, right? You've got to listen to, if you're doing any case studies for your product or your services, you got to see what's working, right? And then you've got to be able to adapt. Just because you started off with, creating a business where you're going to do T-shirts, but what's really selling is the socks that you included. It doesn't mean you give up the whole business. It just means you adapt to what's working and then focus your time and energy and resources on that part of your business. So if you want to say, yes, well, I'm going to quit the T-shirt business, if we want to use the quit word, then yes, quit that part that's not working, but be willing to adapt and change, because what you always start off with might not be what you end with. And we've seen that has been the story even for big companies like Amazon. and Google and Microsoft. So we have, and that for me has been, my experience of how I ended up pivoting and focusing more on the technology. And in that focusing on the technology, I also noticed the serious discrepancies in terms of women in technology, and really started promoting STEM for all, girls in tech. And then that's where I really ramped up my diversity, equity, and inclusion advocacy, which ended up landing me in this new role with DEI directive, because now everything aligns. But one of the things that I did do is when I said, hey, I would go ahead and join DEI directive, I said, listen, I'm still going to continue my tech education, right? Because that's really important to me, especially letting women of color who are trying to get into technology, being a mentor, asking questions when they send me questions to the DM. So I've pivoted, right? I had to give up the original concept of my business to work on what was working for me. The same way you had to say, hey, doing that world tour this year is not going to work for me. But that doesn't mean it can't work in 2024 or 2025. It's just not working right now. And that's the business strategy that as women and women of color that we need to understand is, don't be so focused and have tunnel vision on one concept and think this is the only concept that will work. No, be willing to be adaptable and pivot to a business idea and a business strategy that's going to be more beneficial to you in the long run of your business.
Yeah, so important. I agree with everything you said, Flo. And it's true. It's true for every business, not just Black women. Every business. Evolutionary practices lead to revolutionary results. Evolutionary practices, like the things you do, the tweaks you make every single day. When you look back 10 years from now, you're like, oh man, that was disruptive, right? Evolutionary practices. It's why we get updates on our iOS device every night. Evolutionary practices lead to revolutionary results, right? It's why Netflix went from mailing the VHS tapes and mailing, right, the DVDs, to then saying, well, let's try streaming. Everybody thought they were crazy, right? But at some point it took off, and they got rid of the DVD mail and the VHS mail. And I'm telling you, the company thought the CEO was crazy, but he was looking at the data. He was looking at the data. He said these growth rates are way higher than the growth rates for VHS. As a matter of fact, the VHS is going down, but no, the world didn't see it yet, right? But the data, so these feedback loops that Flo is talking about are so important. Like it has to be a non-emotional discussion. Because when your emotions are in it, and this is your baby and you built it, you're not building for what people want. You're building for what you want them to have. You like the auntie that tells you for 20 years, these men ain't blah, blah, blah. She's telling you what she wants you to have, but you didn't want it, right? And then later you're like, oh, okay, auntie, I get it, right? You have to build for what people want to have and not what you want them to have. And so I love your transparency, Flo, and finding that unsuspecting gem, right? The golden nugget was not where you thought it would be, but you listened to it, right? And it's when we don't listen to what the data is telling us that we drain money, resources, time, and then we have to quit the business entirely, right? Like that's when you're that stubborn. Blockbuster was that. They looked around and kept going for some reason, right? When you are that stubborn, you can't even go on in the business. It's about saving the business through evolutionary practices. So thank you so much.
Exactly.
For that visibility.
And thank you for mentioning the various businesses, because just as you were talking, I'm thinking about Domino's. Domino's increased their profits by over 400%. And that's because now they call themselves a technology company. Domino's has been investing in technology like crazy. And, they're testing various self-driving vehicles. You just order the pizza, a little car shows up and you just, boom, you get your pizza. So they're evolving. And they understand that, hey, technology is around us. How can we capitalize, and not just be, a pizza company, but a technology pizza company. I mean, I would never have seen this coming, 20 years ago, but now they prefer to be called a technology company.
That's right. That's right. And they know that if they don't move, they literally won't be around, right? It reminds me of when I was still working at Bank of America, and the CEO, Brian Moynihan, would always tell us, like, we are a tech company. He said, we can't afford not to be a tech company, right? And behind those words came things like brick and mortar closures, knowing what to quit, closures of brick and mortar banks in communities, right? I mean, executives in the company were so afraid, but what Brian saw in the data was that more and more it's only the older people that are driving to these brick and mortars, but they're dying off, right? And the generation behind them are using a mobile app. He saw it's like the data's telling. So unless we become a tech company where our mobile app is amazing, where people can access and move their cash from anywhere in the world, we literally will not be here, right? It's very risky, not even risky, it's tough, right? To let go of bright ideas because people are telling you they don't care about it anymore, right? Or they never did, right? But when you look at the decisions they made back then and what is popping now, you literally have banks that are popping up now, mortgage companies that don't even have buildings, right? Like people are going online and they're trusting them. They're like, oh yeah, okay, Lily Bank, okay, how much you, right?
Exactly.
So it's not just us, right? You have to do it to stay alive. I love that flow. So I'm just curious, when you think about where you see yourself, right? Let's call it 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Obviously, you have your talk show, which is going incredibly well. You are a co-founder of DEI Directive. What things are you considering, even if they have nothing to do with what you're doing today, right? Like, what things are you considering in your path to living your best life, let's say 10 years from now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I've kind of had this conversation with a co-founder, and one of the things we always say is like, oh, it'd be nice if we have like a work day by our software, or like, a Microsoft, because, with DI Directive integrates with, HR systems, right? So, and we typically target like the HR department or chief diversity officer, or whoever's overseeing kind of like the DI initiatives. But we're always like, wow, it'd be great if we get purchased by that bigger company. And that's one of the things that in the next 5 years that, really hope that, the next couple of years we really focus on, customer acquisition, customer retention, and making enough noise that we get the attention of the bigger companies like a Workday who can say, we can integrate this into our system. Because the other part we also have with our software is compliance, right? Because organizations that have 100 or more employees have to report to the EOC. So our software also has a compliance piece too. So that's the hope. I really hope that we have a really generous buyout, which then frees up, our times to, if we want to create something else, we can. The other hope that I'm working on, and especially with Get Tech Smart, is hopefully, end up as like a Good Morning America, tech correspondent or something like that, or just really seeing myself, having more connections with the local medias or as well as the nationwide media companies. Because I feel like I have a lot to offer in terms of just like, my passion for technology. And sometimes I will speak to tech experts and be like a little insecure. And then I ask them questions that they struggle to answer. And I'm like, damn, I'm a badass. Yeah, I got this, So 5 years is definitely, again, try to, get that buyout, a nice little pocket change with DI Directive, and then really try to kind of focus on, just that technology and journalism. And you know what? It wouldn't be bad either to have the ability to be a big boss, whether it's the CEO or somebody close in charge of a smaller company, but that has a higher valuation, right? So instead of building from the ground up as an entrepreneur, coming into an organization that's already existing, and they're like, boom, hey, we see your experience at DI Directive, creating this and creating that. Because right now, when we look at CEOs in various Fortune 500 companies, for example, women are lacking. Right? We're just not there. So my dream has always been to be one of those tech baddies in a well-established company, go in there and really, get that nice little leather seat at the table and get paid very well, like some of our male counterparts do, sitting at the table. So one of the things I always say is the best of me is yet to come. I've also had people tell me that I should run for local office. But right now, as we can see with what's going on in politics, it's a lot. And I think it requires a lot of patience, a lot of support, because I think just being a DI advocate and seeing what's going on right now in terms of just this war essentially against DEI, it does a lot on your mental health. It does a lot on me and my co-founder to say, are we creating a product that is really needed, right? And can we tell that story that is really needed? And the good news is it is needed. And the better news is that there are companies that are still very invested in creating a work culture where everyone can show up and belong. But running for office, it's not completely off the table. But I'm building more. I feel like I need to build more of a presence in the community, show my value, show the measurable impact that I'm making in my community, and then show up and say, hey, listen, I've been raising scholarships for, underrepresented professionals to upskill. I've been doing this, I've been doing that, things that members of the community can really see the impact that I have made. That way, when they choose to vote, right, they're voting for someone who has a track record of doing things that benefit all members of the community versus, hey, I'm with this party, and I'm only going to focus on things that matter for the. No, I really want to be the type of person who has solutions that are going to be beneficial for everyone. So that's kind of like my 5-year track. So millionaire 5-year track.
Yeah, say that, Tech Baddie. Listen, what you said was so important, and everyone listening, I want you to write down these key words, like write down the principles behind what she's saying, because so many times when we start businesses, the only thing we can see for the rest of our lives is being the hardest working employee in our company and being a solopreneur for the rest of our lives, because we can't imagine that anybody can come in and do certain jobs better than us. All of this is, I ain't gonna say foolish, y'all ain't no fools, but it's not prudent, okay? Like, sis started off by saying an exit. I want you to write that down and Google it. Google it for your industry, an exit. Many founders, not necessarily always us because we don't know, right? But many founders create businesses with the sole intent of selling it within a 10-year period and making guap off of it. That is wealth creation. Hear me. We keep talking about legacy. Legacy don't have to be convincing your child to pick up the cleaning business, and not move on with their lives. Legacy is wealth creation. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you make a solution that's so doggone good that big companies have to buy it from you instead of trying to figure out how to build it for themselves, and you walk away with $50 million? You walk away with $2 billion. Founders do this all. It is wealth creation. And just like sis alluded to, because sis said we could do the exit and build another one. Come on now. You can do this multiple times in your lifetime. What do you think Elon Musk is doing? Yeah. Like PayPal, Tesla, SpaceX, Twitter. You can do this multiple times in your lifetime and sell it and say, get somebody else to do it. Like, write it down, y'all. Like, so many nuggets in what she was saying, right? Flo just articulated to us the fact that she sees her one lifetime evolving in many different ways. That is freedom, if I ever heard it before. That is freedom, if I ever heard it before. You deserve joy while you living in the land of the living. Now, I mean, yeah, we'll see glory. Yeah, I see y'all. I hear y'all. Okay. But in the land of the living, you deserve to see and feel and hold joy with both your hands. So Flo, thank you for being so transparent about what you see, because like These are the things that we need to hear each other talking about, because Big Mama didn't know, Madam CJ Walker did not know, probably, right? But now if we can tell these stories, right, and talk about the fact that you can actually build something 3 times in your lifetime and walk away with the cash. You don't need the business, you don't need the brand. Get somebody else to do it. Your children can be trust fund babies, right?
Exactly.
That is transferable knowledge. Go ahead, Flo.
Yeah, no, I think you bring up a good point. It's that that lack of understanding of how you can build that business up, scale it, where you got the bigger fish, right? The bigger shark, I should say. The bigger shark comes in and just eats you up, but it's good for you, right? Because then you're walking away with the money bags.
Cash money.
Right, cash money, where you can build another business if you want, or you just have the freedom where you can turn into an investor yourself, right? You can turn into an investor and put your money into businesses that you see are doing well. That's one of the things that my father has done. My father has a successful roofing business, right? He started off where he was working for someone else. They owned the roofing company, but then he noticed that he was bringing in all these clients, bringing in a lot of money, but then the person who was benefiting was the owner of that business. So my father said, you know what? I can be the owner. Why am I making somebody else a millionaire? I need to make myself a millionaire. So that's what he did. He opened up his own business, got his own crew. He knows all the permitting and the insurance lingo and everything. Now he runs a successful business. And now one of the things that he does is he puts a lot of the money that he has in other startups. And he's had a couple of those startups actually get purchased. They had that exit strategy earlier than he anticipated, but it was good for him because, he got, as an investor, you get some money as well. So we've got to start thinking about how we can be more strategic in terms of generating that wealth and seeing ourselves, right? Not just manifesting. Oh, I'm going to manifest to be a millionaire. No, I'm going to take the strategic steps to be a millionaire because it is possible for us to be millionaires. We just have to be very strategic about it, learning how to, as we have been chatting, learning how to pivot and make business strategies that make sense, and not just holding on to, hey, I'm holding on to this business because, my granddaddy started it, but the business has you in the negative every single month. So is that part of knowing when to quit, knowing when to adapt, and just knowing how to make the crucial decisions that will, again, allow you to have, and I love the word that you use, freedom. Right. When you started doing the quote about the book you were reading about, what perfectionism and what is perfect. And one of the things you said is kind of having a peace of mind. Right. And for me, I like the word more freedom, because, right, when you have a peace of mind, it's like you have freedom, right? Freedom from all these distractions, freedom from the noise that's going to naysayers and haters. They'll always be there and they'll try to put you down. But when you have freedom, they can be singing all around you and you're just going about your business, doing what you've got to do. And I love that, using that word freedom. I do caution that we try not to, kind of work towards perfectionism, because I feel like we all always have an opportunity to learn and grow, right? It doesn't always have to be perfect, right? And the goal shouldn't be to be perfect, right? The goal should be to be strategic business leaders, all right? Making decisions that are going to generate us wealth, and making decisions that are going to put us in the position to have the big shark come and swallow us. And who cares if they come and swallow us, as long as they're paying out,
Say that.
We're good.
Say that. That's good, Flo. And I love that you shared some information about your father too, right? Because perspective, I mean, when we can taste it and feel it and see ourselves in it, like, that's when it really takes root. I'm just curious, did you come from a family of entrepreneurs? Like, is entrepreneurship kind of in your family and something you've always seen? Or was it like kind of just your dad and now you?
Yeah, so my mom has had her own business as well. I think what it is, yeah, my father is a lawyer. Being a lawyer is very stressful, And he just got to the point where it was just like, all right, I need to focus on my mental health. Because again, that's one of the things that we've got to be careful of is as entrepreneurs, our businesses there's mental health, well-being that we've got to focus on. And because one, there's an increase in issues, like, right, health issues. As business owners, the stress can lead to, a heart disease, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, right? So my father started suffering from a lot of these, and also too, just the lack of opportunities, right? And when you do get opportunities, he's like working so hard and making so little. So my father got to the point where he was just like, you know what? Why am I working myself to death? Right. And what made him at that point leave that other business was my father was in the ICU. He was near death. Right. He was near death, like the stress that his boss was putting him through. He essentially had a heart attack. Right. So he had to say, okay, I can't. I'm working my butt off. Then I'm begging for my money from this person. I gotta go work on my own. So that's one of the things that led him to, and it shouldn't have to be like that for us, right? Don't wait. And again, that thing of knowing when to quit. Don't wait till you're in the ICU, right? Because not everybody's going to recover, right? He's fortunate that he recovered, because it could have been a lot worse, devastated. He could be dead right now, right? So don't wait for that moment to be your aha moment, in the hospital, and say, oh, I think this is a good time to make that pivot. No, don't wait. But no, that's the decision he made. And my mom did have her own business as well. And my mom, she's a badass. I mean, she works in corporate, but on the side, she also has a nursing degree. So she was working Monday through Friday for Comcast, and then to keep her nursing license active, she was working every other week. So she knows also the value of working hard. But while she was working at Comcast, working as a nurse, she was also at one point running a little small children's boutique where she was selling kind of high end, children's shoes and hats and all various stuff. And I actually helped her start that business and worked in that business for a little bit as well. So kind of learned a lot from my parents, about just, working hard, the value of just, putting your all in it, right? If you believe it, you can do it, and it can happen, right? And having support, we definitely have to point out that don't surround yourself with just a lot of people, because just having a lot of people around you doesn't mean anything, because most of those people could add zero value to what you've got to do, right? You've got to surround yourself with cheerleaders, true cheerleaders, who will give you criticism, right? Not talk you down, not try to demoralize you, but say, hey, you know what, Flo? You might want to think about maybe strategizing like this, versus like, girl, that's a bad idea. Oh my God, you were going to be broke. You're not going anywhere. No one's going to buy your stuff. Your business idea sucks. No, someone who brings value to the table, because those are the people that can also help you quit or pivot in a positive way and in a strategic way that will help to benefit your business, right? So that's one thing that I forgot to mention that I really want to touch upon is what has been working for me is having support system around me that are like really big cheerleaders. And on my bad days, which not every day is good, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say every day is great. Every day is not going to be good. But those are the people who will be there for you and have your back through your good days, your bad days. But you definitely need that type of support.
Ashay, that's so good and so sobering. I'm sure all of us can think about times, whether it was us, ourselves lying in hospital beds, or folks in our family who just work themselves to death, right? And then they have these aha moments of, let me get it right. It's so sobering, Flo. I mean, because as you were talking about your father, I just thought about, all the people in my life, especially on my mom's side of the family, who are just brilliant. I'm talking about brilliant and highly educated and just, but gave their all to companies. I have an aunt who, at 35, 36 years old, she's walking across the stage with a PhD, and then boom, multiple sclerosis, but like literally ignoring things in her body for a long time, ignoring CAT scans or something was happening in her brain, just working crazy hours, right? Because she just had to grind. It's one more thing, one more milestone, one more accolade. My grandfather, president of a college, just brilliant man. Every year, I'm gonna retire, I'm gonna finally take a vacation. He dropped dead. Essentially, freak accident, messed up, before he ever did it, before he ever retired, right? And so I think about in 2020 when the pandemic hit and the world, kind of froze, still was moving on the computer, but froze. Like it changed everything for me. And when I got on a one-way flight, when I quit corporate and got on a one-way flight to go to Africa, everybody was like, well, what are you gonna do? Like, why? And I'm like, I just choose Africa. I can be smart anywhere, but this is for me. Like I want to put skin in the game for myself to show other Black women that they can too. I could have done this anywhere. I just choose Africa. It's not because I'm going to work at somebody's company or, and so, yeah, I mean, it was just a reminder for me, of why I started, why I, chose freedom, and a reminder to keep it, Flo. So I thank you for your transparency throughout this entire conversation. Thank you for reminding me of things that are so important because, as we get into these veins and have these goals, we can forget, right? We can forget the importance of balance or ignore these signs of people we also are related to or, where we're following the same path. So I hope everyone listening has taken their own notes and have journals full of reminders and tips. And before we go, Flo, I want you to tell folks where they can find you, whether it's social media handles, your website. What are the best ways for people to keep in touch with all that you're doing?
Yeah, so definitely for DEI Directive, we are at www.deidirective.com. And for me, my social media handle is quite funny. I am known as the non-boring lawyer. So you can definitely find me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on TikTok as well, and Instagram. But yeah, please reach out. Let's connect. I love chatting with especially women from around the world. So wherever I can be of resource or value to you, or you just need that motivational and inspirational chit chat, hit me up. I'll be more than willing to do it. And I don't charge. So.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Flo. Everybody tap in. She is an inspiring person to follow and stay alongside in this entrepreneurial journey. Flo, thank you so much for not only your wisdom, but your heart. I feel like you poured so much of your heart into this conversation, and we're all the better for it. Godspeed. Continue to keep crushing it and winning these awards and going higher. We're rooting for you.
Thank you so much, Casey. And again, thank you so much for bringing me on to have this candid chat with you.
Of course. Thank you. All right, y'all, take care. This is the end of day 3. Thank you. All right, ladies, thank you so much for engaging the way that you did in the chat. Thank you so much for your reflections. Everyone who wrote questions in the Q&A box, all of them have been answered. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful questions. And all of this shows for 3 months. Okay. We are officially done with day 3. There are only 2 days left in the summit. So yeah, take what you need, sis. Only 2 days left. And you all have showed up brilliantly every single day, lifting each other. You all have been in the lounge, connecting with each other. Many of you have slid in the DMs. Many of you have slid in my DMs, right? And we've engaged. You've been setting up meetings. You've been going to booths. Do not stop. The vendors literally are live right now, and they will be dropping in the feed what y'all can do. Some people are doing happy hours. Some people do virtual screenings. Some people have very cool conversations around like Q&A, so grant writing, etc. I saw y'all getting mixy yesterday. So just take up space. Like there is so much space for you in here. as promised, we're going to take literally just a couple of minutes, literally just a couple of minutes, to allow you to understand what the people in spots 4 and 5 will get. So I've been talking a lot about the Amber Booth McCoy, who is the CEO of the Diversity Booth out of Arkansas. She's actually a community partner for the summit. She's been promoting us heavy because they love us and we love them, right? Community is just everything. I'm grateful for communal love. So she's actually here, okay? She's actually here, and we'll just do this a couple of minutes just to give you a taste of this phenomenal project that she is not only coordinated but published out into the world. This is actually on sale today. She is an author. What's up, Amber?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, beautiful?
I'm good. Of course, excited to be in the Blaze Summit as always. Like, even my husband, he was like, "Oh, that's that international Black woman thing." It is.
It is.
And it is.
So dope. You are always full of energy, sis. So before we dive in, and y'all, each of us will just share really short passages, like just a few minutes of the book. It's a huge project, but Amber, that's it, y'all. Amber, please let people know kind of like the background of this project, and how they can purchase it. I'll also say, y'all, the folks who win spots number 4 and 5, they're going to get a signed copy of this book in the mail. Okay. Like, that's the purpose of giving this flavor and this taste of what this is. But yeah, go ahead, Amber. Purpose and the identity of this book, as well as how people can get it.
Dear Sis, I Love You is an anthology on Black sisterhood. It is compiled or curated by my sister and I, Katina Booth White, and me, Amber Booth McCoy. And it is more so the antithesis to the idea that Black women don't get along and don't love each other. We know that that's not true. But there's also true that our experiences in Black sisterhood are so very varied. And so this book is a compilation, if you will, of 30 plus women across the generations that have shared everything from poems to breathing exercises to their experiences of Black sisterhood. So we can read passages, and I'm just going to read the dedication that we wrote for the book. This book is dedicated to the mothers of sisters, sisters of sisters, trans sisters, tired sisters, guided together sisters, hurt sisters, joyous sisters, street walking sisters, afro wearing sisters, growing edges back sisters, edges won't grow back sisters, lock wearing sisters, perm sewed in, wig wearing sisters, deeply melanated sisters, corporate sisters, single mother sisters, newly married struggling sisters, holding space for my sisters, we in this together sisters, slow to trust sisters, we so Black sisters, I love being Black sisters, sis, we love you. So
Ashe, and signed copy from the Amber Booth McCoy. I love that. That's so witty, man. All right, so I'm going to read very quickly, y'all. Literally just a couple of minutes, okay? Then I'll pass it to Amber to read a couple of minutes of whatever passage she wants to. And again, this is just a taste of what spots number 4 and 5 will receive in the mail, signed copy. But anyone can grab this because it's actually published, and I'm so proud of this work. It's an anthology for Black women, talking to Black women, so that folk can see how we actually communicate, because the lies are not true. Super dope. Okay, so I'll take a couple of paragraphs from the beginning of my passage, and then I'll take a paragraph maybe from the very, very end, okay? And my chapter is called All the Things I Couldn't Say. All the Things I Couldn't Say. And it reads, these are quotation marks. Well, if I make you feel the way you say I do, why are we even friends? I'm not going anywhere, she said. Why? Because I love you. I held my phone, looking at the group text message thread. Though I was fuming, I didn't know how to reply to a message like that. What could be a reply to a message like that? I was completely stumped. As I sat balled up in my bed, back to my headboard and knees to my chest, tears began to sting my eyes. My frustration grew, in large part because I didn't know how to process what I was feeling. I didn't want to. Whatever was going on with me was stupid, but not unfamiliar. I didn't text back to say that I was starting to cry. I didn't text that I loved her too. I didn't explain that I was having a hard time processing my emotions in that moment. I didn't say anything. For a full 24 hours, I didn't say anything. Protection was the only language that I was fluent in within my friendships. I was not familiar with soft caresses, nor the long, warm hugs that are filled with smells of sweet perfume, the kind that makes your eyes close and lips curl. Those incredibly soft hugs that rock you back and forth, making you feel suspended in time, safe and grounded. Now, I was a warrior. I was a protector of fragile beings, rational above all else, and numb to the things that might cause my frail humanity to lead the way. People needed to be strong. People needed me to be strong for them, to help them transcend their problems and to trample on the things in their lives that threatened to damage them. Or perhaps I needed that. Perhaps I was trying to save myself. All right. And then there's some stuff that goes into it, but I end with something like, in this moment, the Casey of today will speak to the sister who responded all those years back with, because I love you. I can't take back time, and I wouldn't change a thing if I could, as the events of my life have led me to where I stand now. Today, I'm better equipped to offer these flowers from an untainted lens. So I would say, dear sis, today I know to tell you that you are beautiful, just the way that you are, that you have more courage than I could ever dream of mustering up in the first 30 years of my life. The courage of not giving a damn about what the rules are. Today, I know to tell you that your spirit of adventure is purer than anything I can understand, and it must be protected at all costs. You move the culture forward. My lack of understanding, your dreams, should never be a reason not to give it your all, and nor should anyone else's. I know to tell you that it is okay to make mistakes, that I trust you to love yourself enough to always walk towards the path that lifts you higher, and that you should trust yourself too. Every experience along your path will cause your heart, understanding, and perspective to swell in beautiful ways. And then I say more in the letter, but that's my little piece. And that's a very real story of a sister that I did not know how to love in the way she loved her. Amber, take it away.
So this one is at the beginning of the book. It simply says Black Sisterhood. It says, to my queen mothers, aunties, sister friends, and all the Black girl magic flowing in spaces between. In the immortal words of the belovedly flawed character, Miss Suge Avery, from the prolific story, The Color Purple, sister, you've been on my mind, sister, we're two of a kind. Oh, sister, have I got news for you? I'm something, and I hope that you think that you're something too. In every piece of the book, each author has given us their Black girl magic recipe. So that recipe includes something spicy, something sweet, an ancestor, a song, a totem, what we used to call spirit animals, or a mystery ingredient. So my Black girl magic recipe is something spicy, is that pepper in the Thanksgiving greens. My ancestor is going to be Audre Lorde, Zora Neale Hurston, Fannie Lou Hamer, and my great grandmother. My song is going to be Bigger by Beyonce. My spirit animal is the puma, because she don't mess with you unless you messing with her, but she fierce. And my mystery ingredient is glitter and cuss words. Absolutely. They my favorite.
I love that. I love that.
My favorite. So dear sis, I'm rooting for you. I'm cheering for you, yelling for you, crying with you, fighting with you, sharing with you, growing with you, and laughing with you. I'm here when you need me and when you don't. Black sisterhood has been one of the most special gifts in my life, from being a big sister to adopting big sisters, from pouring into younger sisters, and even understanding the value of sisters. I am in no way saying that sisterhood is all candy canes, rainbows, glitter, laughs, and sleepovers. Engaging in true sisterhood means there is a potential for real hurt or harm because it requires vulnerability, and vulnerability is the responsibility we must honor with trust. The world has developed narratives of Black women that may be true, that we often internalize, that there's a strong Black woman, angry Black woman, a vindictive and Jezebel Black woman. The truth is, because of our experiences, families, communities, churches, and workspaces where our whole self has not been welcomed and possibly assaulted, sometimes ignored, often devalued, or worse, silenced, it can often cause us to harden. We internalize the idea of strength and trade in the ability or even the desire to be soft. I challenge you to see other Black women as fragile, something that we should handle with care and value each other. My truth is, when I would encounter soft spaces, supposedly safe spaces, I wouldn't let my guard down because I didn't want to have the experience any unnecessary or additional hurts. And then I go on to talk about what finding Black sisterhood feels like. I will say that in the back of the book, there are questions for your journey because I love asking questions. It says, take what you need and throw the rest away. So just a few of those are, who did you want to be before they told you who to be? What does sisterhood mean to you? What's a dream so big it scares you? And what would the women in your life say about you? And there are lots of other questions in the back. But like I said, you take what you need, you throw the rest away. But this book is the first in a series of anthologies. You can find it on Barnes & Noble. You can find it on Amazon. You can also find it on our website at the Diversity Booth. It is just that, the Diversity Booth. And you can find me anywhere that you simply hashtag your favorite diversity specialist, because I'm your favorite diversity specialist.
You're that girl. Yes.
I am that. So.
Amber, you're so good.
This is a whole children's book. This is a whole children's book by my sisters and I, called STEM Looks Like Me. It is absolutely about representation. These babies have 4C curl patterns and all, but go ahead and check that one out too.
Please do, y'all. And they're really lighting it up in the chat. So definitely resonated. Somebody was eyeing the STEM book in the back. So I'm glad you said that. Somebody asked a question about where they could get the book. And so I'm so happy, Amber, that you shared that as well. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all that you do without us asking. Thank you for the ways that you are guaranteed to show up when I least expect it, sis. I deeply appreciate you, Amber, and I'm rooting for you heavy, sis.
Thank you very much. Same here. Same here. All right.
Thank you, Mama. Y'all go get this book. Amber's going to sign it. Thank you, Amber. I will definitely be sending her y'all's preferred mailing address, depending on who gets that number 4 and 5 spot. Okay. But that's it. All right. So day 3 was beautiful. Come on, Auntie Yvonne. She's dropped the links to both the Barnes and Noble's book and the Amazon. But yeah, it is y'all's time. Nothing else to say. Love y'all deep. I hope that you've gotten what you've needed for these first 3 days. We have 48 hours left of this experience, and then it's done. Okay, it is done. And don't cuss me out, but oh geez, y'all used to us doing this every 6 months. We are moving this. Because we actually want to be outside and we want to connect and hug and party. Okay. So we're moving this to an annual, still Blaze Virtual Summit, still global, still anybody can interact and engage from around the entire world. But every time we do this from now on, it will be happening in June, around Juneteenth, from Friday evening, baby, until Sunday. We are having founder after party weekend. Ain't no classes, okay? Ain't no workshops. Nope, ain't no notebooks. Ain't no notebooks, right? So whoever wants to take the pilgrimage, whoever wants to take the annual pilgrimage to come together and share, and baby, we're going to make it amazing. Just like there is so much space for us in here, there will be so much space curated in real life. And so hug your biz besties for real, for real. Hug me. I want to smell your perfume. Like I want to know who you be. And it'll always be I don't want to say always be, but definitely next year and definitely for the first couple of years, like it'll be US based. Like y'all are who we caping for, and we love the rest of the world too. But like y'all are the biggest base, and y'all show up so heavy. So just know that more information to come. But we used to do it every 6 months. We are disrupting ourselves because y'all deserve more. That's why. Like that's why. So just know that's coming. Okay, I promise. Promise. But annually is how we'll do this. It'll still have the virtual components. So if you can't pull up, access to money will not bar you from this experience. But we will have the after party weekend and turn up heavy. Okay. All right, so enjoy the booths. Vendors, I'm gonna be looking out for your shout outs in the feed, and I promise I'll announce them so that people know to come and check you out. I love y'all deep. Christina said I'll be smelling like the white diamonds. The white diamonds. All right, bye y'all. I love y'all. See y'all tomorrow. Bye. Take care. Peace.